But this is a song called Good Night, Josephine. Napoleon was a man who thought he was a king. In pursuit of his ambitions, he conquered everything. In his ruthless search for glory and a love he was denied, millions of lives were sacrificed. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, my dearest Josephine. Good night, Josephine, good night. His battleships lay sunken by his foe Horatio. This man of destiny felt cruel Siberian winds blow when his Grand Army beat a retreat from Moscow. Precious few survived that winter's snow. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, my dearest Josephine. Good night, Josephine, good night. Defeated, he surrendered to his old adversaries. In banishment to Elba, he escaped captivity, to return to France defiant for a further 100 days. At Waterloo, Napoleon met his fate. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, my dearest Josephine. Good night, Josephine, good night. So the little corporal outlived his fantasy, imprisoned on St. Helena, stripped of his majesty. At 51, the Corsican quit his hopeless fight and whispered, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, my dearest Josephine. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, Josephine, good night. Good night, my dearest Josephine. Good night, Josephine, good night. Thank you very much. That's somewhat obsessed me for the last 6 months, actually. Oh, it's a different sound now. I prefer that one, yeah. There's a man walks round our city looking broken. For 20 years his head's bewildered me. His gauze and lint-free crown is the talk of the town. A cabriolet turban beyond which no one can see. Did he catch a ricochet whilst in the Falklands? What trapped his head in railings as a youth? Is he partially invisible? Is it mental and not physical? Is there anyone out there who knows the awful truth? Hey, Mr. Bump, what's wrong with you? Is it true beneath those bandages your brain is on full view? Was it major surgery or demented vanity? Do you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump. Is he head of Lincoln's Al-Qaeda network, or a mullah with the ruined Taliban? Is his crash helmet too big? Is it hiding a crap wig? Did he try to trepan himself, make his skull open plan? Is he plated like a World War II destroyer, or glass between the temple and the jaw? Does it rest his aching head so much he never goes to bed? What underlies this mystery of medical folklore? Hey, Mr. Bump, what's wrong with you? Is it true beneath those bandages your brain is on full view? Is it major surgery or demented vanity? Do you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump. Maybe he relies on hidden solar panels, or jumped up whilst beneath some rotor blades. Was it down some grim alley? Was he beaten brutally? Or did he try to end it all with the garden spade? Did he jump up or he walk into a chainsaw with his forehead? Or perhaps he's masochistically inclined. Does he suffer grand mal fits? Have his nerves been shot to bits? Or does it simply illustrate that drugs can blow your mind? Hey, Mr. Bump, what's wrong with you? Is it true beneath those bandages your brain is on full view? Was it major surgery or demented vanity? Do you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump, hey, Mr. Bump, what's wrong with you? Is it true beneath those bandages you're regretting that tattoo? Tell me, what catastrophe befell the sweet, so legendary? Did you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump. Did you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump. Did you cop the hump when asked about your chump? Hey, Mr. Bump. Legend of Mr. Bump. Thank you very much. Down at the local folk club. Spider on my nose, which is a bit irritating. In the dimly lit gloom of an old upstairs room where members get in for half price, there's a song in your head from a book you've half read about hanging, murder and vice. At the front you will stand, trembling in voice and hand, singing loud as the best folkies do. But you reached for the sky and pitched it too high. Down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. Down in the bar where the rock band's guitar is shaking the building to rubble. Far away from that sound that the folk sing around, the songs telling of toil and struggles. It's enough, don't you think, to drive you to drink, sat at home watching Britain's Got Talent. But us folk masochists keep on getting our kicks down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. Songs of the military, smack of misogyny, when you've got to feel sad for the wench. What if he stayed at home to weep and to moan while she buggers are fighting the French? It's the 29th verse, and what's even worse, singer's forgotten the words. But there's always a member to help you remember, down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. Folking we'll go through the rain and the snow, singing songs of the wars and high seas, of plunder and pillage goings on in the village. We'll keep it that way, if you please. So don't dare embarrass by singing Rolf Harris or doing the old rock and roll. If you try to inflict it, you might be evicted down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. With a pint of real ale, sing of hunting the whale and sea shanties made up on the bus. With your in your beer, it's the women I fear. You can beat any man when you cuss. To your ear, so the song you might hear, song without end, so it seems. But so it won't bore us, each verse has a chorus, down at the local folk club, singing down at the local. You gotta go down at the local, down at the local folk club. So stick with tradition, and with our permission, the ordeal might not prove too painful. At our monthly event, you may not circumvent our laws esoterically anal. Try a few folderols and no blues or soul upstairs, lest you empty the pub. Social worker or teacher, you're our kind of creature, down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. This barrage of folk might be a nice bloke, policing his arbitrary borders, but his filter, I fear, could be wax in his ear or obedience to some higher order. So my apology, given down on one knee, is heretic's jibe to his snub. Although you deplore us, just try to ignore us, down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club, singing down at the local, down at the local, down at the local folk club. And thank you, Michael, for inspiring that. I don't know if you're here today, but you can buy me a drink later. certain points. It's called Gaslighting Britain. We used to be proud of our flagship healthcare. Now we pull our own teeth with old pliers in despair. Waiting lists grown, cancers left multiply. 40 fantasy hospitals, a mendacious lie. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your bogeymen. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, but imaginary hospitals won't save your life. Now growing the pie is an nonsensical claim, survived by a lettuce, then banished in shame. Fuel costs kept soaring, rents didn't desist, and heating your swimming pools taking the piss. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your bogeymen. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, and insatiable landlords must somehow survive. We eat out to help out down at the food banks and fight proxy wars with our bombs and think tanks. Our PPE gangsters and profiteer scum just scurried off out to the jungle for fun. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your bogeymen. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, but a small boat from Calais leaves London next time. The witch hunt for woke has barely begun, and I'm the wrong kind of Jew with my Pink Floyd albums. If you burning ambitions, why not torch a pet shop? And like shit in our rivers, you rise to the top. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your bogeymen. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, whilst youths pee into tents where the homeless reside. Now north of the border, they bought an RV with money they'd laundered independently. Then a transgender rapist in prison obliged when they left the seat up and self-identified. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your new girlfriend. Where football's becoming Arabian Nights, with all the best players crude oil can buy. It's a sad bit now, and it's true. My poor mother waited, but no help arrived, so she died all alone as the bodies piled high. Because there's one rule for them and another for us, though they've thrown their own bastard under his own bus. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks like the cake defence. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, and the cause of this travesty should be inside. Here in gaslighting Britain, where nothing makes sense, just the size of the bollocks of your bogeymen. We're buggered by Brexit, barely alive, but the climate catastrophe's still being denied. La 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 this genocide. Thank you very much, Lord.